Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today's episode is all about how to live a healthy, active, passion-filled life, even at 99. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, Women in the Middle. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again for this week's episode, which is a really special one. Actually, you may even be familiar with today's guest. You may remember her from TV when you were a kid. My guest today is Elaine Lalanne, fitness icon and wife of fitness pioneer Jack LaLanne, who inspired millions of people to live healthier lives with fitness, with exercise, with nutrition. They had a powerful partnership and were trailblazers in this field. Now, this episode is really inspirational, not only because you'll learn more about how, as entrepreneurs, Elaine and Jack made such an incredible impact on fitness and nutrition today, but you'll also be inspired by Elaine herself and how she has incredible energy, wisdom, and passion in her work today at 99. And you know, it's not every day you get to interview a genuine fitness icon. At 99, she's got more than a few stories and insights to share. But just quick, I have a free gift for you, and it starts with a question. Are you ready to finally put yourself first? I have a free guide to help you. It's called Top 10 Questions to Reimagine Your Life After 50. It's like an easy journaling exercise to help you discover how to get unstuck and feel happier in midlife, how to create more confidence so you can capitalize on your newfound clarity around what you want, and to be able to connect with your heart and find yourself again, finally. So make sure to grab your free download by heading over to www.susierosenstein.com/10 questions. Okay, now let me tell you about my amazing guest. Today's interview is about how to live a healthy, active, passion-filled life at 99 with the First Lady of Fitness, Elaine Lalanne. As I mentioned, you may recognize her name because she and her husband, Jack LaLanne, were actually teaching you how to exercise on television when you grew up. Elaine is a sparkling, vivacious, and inspirational health and fitness expert, motivational speaker, and prolific author. Known and loved universally by thousands worldwide for her warmth, spontaneity, and ongoing advocacy for living a positive, active, and healthy life at any age, Elaine stimulates, motivates, and educates through her multiple entertainment appearances, her popular Pass It On podcast, frequent articles, and multiple best-selling books. Since 1948, Elaine, known as Lala to her friends, has lit up screens as a beloved on-air personality and host. She was also an integral partner in her husband, the godfather of fitness, Jack LaLanne's groundbreaking TV programs, health and fitness videos, and public appearances. As a solo speaker and fitness icon, Elaine has accomplished so much in her lifetime. Most recently, and continuing to promote and demonstrate Jack's philosophies, the incredibly energetic and charismatic 99-year-old Elaine and the LaLanne family recently published Jack LaLanne's memoirs and advice in a book called Pride and Discipline, The Legacy of Jack LaLanne, in his words and the words of those he inspired. Featuring Jack's enduring messages that remain as relevant today as they were 70 years ago, Pride and Discipline includes personal communications, wellness advice, and family photos that have never been shared outside of Jack's immediate inner circle. Elaine has been featured all over the place in countless interviews and on-air appearances, including The Tonight Show, Rachel Ray Show, Fox and Friends, The Howard Stern Show, and The New York Times, and tons more. Not slowing down at all in her 90s, super ager Elaine recently shattered the world jumping jacks record, leading fitness celebrities and over 9,000 people in 19 countries worldwide. She does it all. Elaine is also very busy co-producing with actor-producer Mark Wahlberg, both a documentary and feature film with Mark playing Jack, and it's all about Jack LaLanne. Today's interview is a really special one, so please enjoy. Hi, Elaine. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Susie. I've heard about you, and say up there in Canada, you're doing awfully good up there, and
Well,
we've heard about you.
I'm trying. Thank you so much. I'm trying to keep things interesting and really help the women in the middle love their life again after 50. And you are somebody who I think you're the epitome of somebody who embraces the gift of aging. And, you're 99 and here you are in my podcast and you're just a whiz. So tell me about that idea of embracing the gift of aging.
Well, the gift of aging is aging easily, because, people will say, oh my gosh, I'm 60. I just had a friend recently. She says, oh, I'm 60 and I'm just getting so old. I said, honey, life begins at 60. That's when I wrote my first book. You can go on and start a whole new business or do whatever you want at 60 or 70. So anyway, that aging is, I'm gonna give you some of the facts on age. This one is an old one. It's just a number, and that's so trite, aging, but it is just a number. And aging gracefully is not worrying about when I look at you, Susie, I see personality coming out of you, personified. I'm telling you, and people don't realize that they don't care what you really look like, or the wrinkles if you get a couple of wrinkles on your hair, you know what they are? Personality lines.
I love that.
And so don't worry about the little lines here and there. And, I use a lot of moisture on my face. I don't let my face ever get dry. I use a lot of moisturizer. I had a moisturizer on my own for many, many years. So, and I never go to bed without moisturizing. I don't ever get up in the morning without moisturizing. And so I always have and so therefore that's why I don't have, if you look at me closely, you'll find a lot of wrinkles.
I don't know. You look pretty youthful to me.
But that's a tip that I'm going to give to you, the people that are aging. Don't let your face get dry.
That makes sense. It makes sense. And that gives me good justification to keep buying the creams I like.
Yeah, right. You do. You keep them.
You're so sweet. Well, this idea of the gift of aging is one of the main motivators for me doing this work, because I have outlived both of my parents by decades. My mother died very young at 32. My father died very young at 41. And so they didn't have the gift of aging. They didn't have the privilege to age. And when I got into my 50s, I started to see and hear from lots of midlife women who it was so clear they weren't looking at what they could do. They were focusing on what they can't do. They weren't looking at how beautiful they were and how capable they were. They were looking at the glass half empty. And it just really resonated with me that, the messaging, the beliefs, it just wasn't helping at all.
The beauty comes from within. And when you meet people, you don't see them, you see what their heart is, what they're exuding from their personality. And I think about and everybody that's watching today, think about the people that you know. Do you love them for what they look like, or do you love them for what they are giving you of themselves? I was a junk food junkie.
Really?
I wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for Jack. I was on television and I had him on as an interview. We had an hour and a half show every day, 4:36.
What year was this, Elaine?
1949, I started in San Francisco on ABC.
Wow.
And we had the 12-piece orchestra from radio. And this guy just found me. I was demonstrating 4 to 5 records, and he said, I'm starting a television show. And I was selling, I was selling 45 records, but I wasn't the salesperson. I'd have to bring it over. I was working for the company and promoting it. So he comes over and he said, well, I'm starting a television show. You'd be good. He heard me say, somebody said, can I get Bing Crosby? And I said, no, you can't get Bing Crosby, but you can get Perry Como, and he sounds just like him. Evidently he heard me say that, and then that was my start on television. And then Jack came on in 1951, and then 1953, 54, we started dating.
Wow, so that's how you met. He reached out to you because of a business thing.
Well, here I used to come in with my cigarette and my bear claw and my chocolate. I loved chocolate donuts. And one day now we were down. I started out at the transmitter in Twin Peaks, but then we'd moved downtown. And so I'd come in an early morning while they were getting ready for the show, and I'd be smoking my cigarette. He said, you should be eating apples, bananas, and oranges. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't tell you this. I said, oh, yeah? But he was to bring a guy over with a very big corporation. And he said, I'm going to take 30 pounds off of this guy in 30 days. And he had him on the show every day. And oh my gosh. So I went home and I started, and then he brought pictures of black lungs, pink lungs, and holy lungs. I thought, oh my God. I quit. When he brought that picture over on his TV show, I quit smoking like that. I said, I don't want black lungs.
Wow.
I don't want holy lungs. If you've ever seen anybody with holy lungs, it's tough. And so my cousin, she smoked, and she could hardly breathe and hardly walk. And so I quit smoking then, and I changed my whole life. I went home and broiled everything I used to fry, and I just started cutting out white sugar and white flour, and for till I was 85, I said, Jack, I've been good all these years, and I said, if I want a piece of cake, I'm going to have a piece of cake. And he said, it's not what you do some of the time that counts, it's what you do most of the time that counts. So, and he said, if you do everything in moderation, you can't go wrong. So I've always kept that. If your listeners, your viewers, think about moderation, don't know how many times do we overindulge. We all overindulge at certain times. So if you keep everything in moderation and you don't overindulge, you can't go wrong.
You know what, Elaine, that is really good advice. But I'm thinking back to the beginning of your relationship with your soon-to-be husband. So not only did he influence you to make these kinds of changes by just meeting professionally, but then you start dating and you have a marriage that went for decades and decades while working together.
Yes. You know what? And you know why?
Tell me.
We had a meeting of the minds. I thought, bodybuilders were, well, in those days, they didn't, in the movies, they made them like,
not the smartest guy, not so smart.
So
yeah.
I didn't know anything about bodybuilding or anything like that. I was a swimmer, Minneapolis Aqua Follies, but I had let myself go for like 6 years, and so my chest line was sinking into my waistline. My waistline was getting a little thicker, and so this is when I changed. That's when I changed my life.
Wow. But I have to say, if you're listening right now, you may recall what Elaine's husband looked like. You may recall how muscular he was. You may recall, oh my gosh, Elaine is holding up a book right now, Pride and Discipline, The Legacy of Jack LaLanne. And he looks like
he looked.
Like somebody on a magazine, a fitness magazine. He's gorgeous and so muscular.
This is one of my favorite pictures. So
well, I can see why.
I put it on this book, but this is a great book, and it's
Well, this is a great book, and it's available. I'll, of course, have the book
on Amazon.
on Amazon. Yeah, I'll have it in the show notes. But, when I look back, I think about the memories. I totally remember you both pitching juicers as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember that. So your life was totally influenced by him before, during, and after.
Yes. See, a
right?
lot of people remember the juicers,
Yeah.
but you don't remember the shows. He started he has the first physical culture studio, it was called in those days. And I was going to say gym, but it was a gym, but it was called Physical Culture Studio.
Oh my!
And, that was 1936, and he invented the first leg extension. The first squat bar. It's now the Smith's machine. He invented so much equipment, and I still have some of that. It was put together. I have the prototypes, and so that goes back into the 30s. And we had the first instant breakfast. We had the first glamour stretcher, which is a stretcher. We had the first candy bar. Not candy bar, but it was a protein bar.
Protein bar, yeah.
Yeah, those are all out of his head.
This is really amazing.
I'd like to get into your head and get all that stuff out of there.
It's unbelievable. So, once you started merging your lives, did you see yourself as a businesswoman? Did you see yourself as a fitness icon?
Well, yeah, I didn't see myself as a businesswoman. I mean, I didn't see myself as a fitness person, but I was in the fellow that I worked with, Les Malloy, on the television. I did a lot for him. He taught me a lot about business, and so that was really like going to college. I mean, I really,
like a business degree. You had a mentor,
and I was working at the time.
Okay. Like, I'm so blown away by you. So yes, your husband was gorgeous, and he was really a looker, and I remember that as a kid. But so are you. You're still beautiful, and so healthy, and so fit. And you were back then too. So to prepare for our interview, I was looking a few things up, and so gorgeous. And so you really leaned into it as an adult. You weren't exercising like that before, were you? Now, you said you were a swimmer.
Yeah, no, I would. Well, of course, being a swimmer and an aqua poly swimmer, I was in pretty good shape then.
Yeah.
This was like 45. I came to California during the war, before the war ended, and because my boyfriend was killed on Iwo Jima, and I went to visit my family, my cousins, and because they were working in the shipyards during the war, and so I stayed in California. Went to the NBC UCLA Radio Institute because I was interested in radio. But anyway, he was very mental, and he says everything starts between your ears. Everything starts in your mind. What wiggles your finger, he says, your mind. So we fell in love through the mind. People say, "Oh, what a body." I said, "Honey, I didn't fall in love with his body. I fell in love with his brain."
Yeah.
That's what drew us together, is that. And he was so funny. Never had anything, arguments or anything, because there was no way I could have an argument with him. Do you know why?
Why?
Because he was so funny, he would make a funny out of it. He said, "We don't talk negative in this house." My kids, they'll tell you, we don't talk negative in this house. Anything that's negative, he said, everything that's happened to me is my fault. I brought it on. So he said, this is the way he thought. And so I said, "Jack, if you honk that horn one more time, I'm going to divorce you." He says, "Promise?" I mean, that's the kind of a sense of humor he had. It's just,
Yeah.
I just ended up just howling a lot of the stuff that he'd say.
Well, it's really
And in
so
my book,
interesting.
there's a lot of stuff in here on that he said. There's this humor. There's a whole chapter on humor.
Oh, that's great. I guess I'm just fascinated, like I said, with so many of the parts of the things that you said, to become an entrepreneur and to work with your husband. Let's just look at that for a minute. You said that you had this mentor and somebody taught you a lot about business, but you had all of this creativity going on and risk. There's a lot of risk taking when you're an entrepreneur.
Oh, lots of risk taking. But he was the instigator. I
Yeah.
was the doer. I mean, he had the ideas, and we'd go out to dinner when we were dating, and we were writing the glamour stretcher time record, and we were the instructions, for it. So I would, going out to dinner, I'd bring my little pad and pencil and write this down, write that down.
Oh my gosh. What was your favorite invention?
My favorite invention of his, well, I think it was probably, there's two. There's one is the glamour stretcher, but I think the instant breakfast. It's, we're, below his physical culture studio in Oakland. We rented a little studio. It had a little balcony, and then down below, and that's where I did all my work. And then down below, let's put in a health food store. So one day we're putting in wheat germ and we're non-fat milk solids and whatnot in the blender. We're blending it all up, and he says, "No, this is like an instant breakfast." And Mel Williamson over in Oakland, and we'll have make up a product for us. And that's how instant breakfast started.
And that was the first power bar?
That was the first. That was the first. That in Oakland, California. And then we got this rack jobber. Rack jobber in the markets are where you find your lipstick and your mouthwash and all that. Well, that he had a big rack with all sorts of stuff in it, and we talked him into putting our instant breakfast in there. So we evidently mentioned the instant breakfast in the pamphlet of exercise. This becomes part of your label, and you can't do that. You have to take it off the market. So Jack was out of town, and then comes back, and I said, "Oh, we got to take it off the market. It's going to cost us." About 3 years later, guess what? Carnation comes out with the very thing we had.
So, this is what I mean about risk and innovation and creativity. You have to always be thinking and pivoting and accommodating. Like, it's just such an interesting story. Now, tell me a little bit about exercise. What was your journey like? Because obviously Jack was committed to exercise before he met you. It was his life.
Yeah.
What about you? What was it like for you after you got together and you became much more committed to that kind of thing?
Well, I think I became committed right away because, he started a little exercise class at KGO TV, and that's when I joined it. And then I said, the more he talked, the more it made sense, because you can't be around Jack without being sold. And so I started exercising, and then, I quit eating out of cans, and I changed my diet and everything. And the blues were bluer, the greens were greener. I mean, everything was, after I quit smoking, and so I was sold now. Now I wanted to tell everybody about it. So that's what I did. I started exercising, and I had a little routine I did every day. And then I changed, and then he says, "You got to change your program." So we got to change your program. So he wanted to keep everything simple, not make it complicated. You'll see that even in this book, writing, everything is simple. It's all his writings. and a little bit about our life together too, and in my family, pictures of my family, and I've got on there. Let's see, I've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, Denise Austin, Keith Morrison, Tony Little.
Wow.
All those people have said stuff about Jack in this book, but I really I changed my life and I was committed. See, I have an arch that I live by. It's ARCH. A, attitude. Your attitude toward life. Don't change. You can change your life. It's your attitude towards people, your attitude towards everything that you do. It's so important about your attitude. You got a negative attitude.
Yeah.
If you so now that's A. R for resistance. So resist the foods that are undermining your life. In other words, if you're overindulging, if you're overdoing anything. So that's resistance. This resistance, you know how I got that little muscle?
Your bicep.
It's getting smaller.
It's still very noticeable. It's still noticeable.
But anyway, that's resistance. That builds muscle. So and resistance gives you muscle tone, and it tones up your body. Okay, no, that's the R, and the C is for consistency. So you've got to be consistent. Don't slack off. Be consistent on everything you do. Your workouts, what you put in this mouth. Ask yourself, what is this going to do for me? When you start looking at when you're going to put this food in your mouth, you say, what is this going to do for me? So there's your arc. I came up with arc, but John, my son, said, you need an H on there, Mom. You need a heart, arch. And so I said, well, H is for harmony. If you have all these things, you'll have harmony in your life. And that's what I've had all my life, is harmony. And this is what you want to do, is strive for harmony. Strive for your arch of life.
I love that. So would you say now, or, you can think about any time frame, was there ever a phase in your life, your later life, where you didn't feel like exercising? Or is it so much a part of who you are that there's no resistance?
Yes. When my daughter died in an automobile accident when she was 21.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, I kind of slacked off. But when you slack off, you can come back.
Exactly.
And so you slack off. Don't get down on yourself because you slacked off. I mean, you think, oh, I slacked off. Now I don't feel like doing it. I feel like, well, get a hold of yourself and get out there and say,
yeah, exactly.
You start doing it and just start doing something simple.
Yeah.
Maybe lifting your leg just lifting your legs.
Yeah.
And moving your arms and
yeah,
up and down and even your hands. When you get older, oh boy, you need to do this, and they're not.
So at 99, what is your exercise routine? Please inspire us.
Well, it's been pretty cold. I've had a little gym here, so I used to go out on a treadmill and do that. I love the treadmill, it's an old-fashioned one. You have to really work at it. I used to do a lot of walking around the property and up hills and down hills. But see, I have a bone-on-bone knee now. I'm kicking myself all over for not having it done several years ago. I had the other one done. I had fallen and I had the other one, my left one done when I was 85. And then I got so busy writing books, if you want to live, move, putting the boom back in boomers was my first book that I was starting at that time in my 90s. And so I said, I don't have time. I don't have time. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. And then Greg asked me to do a book, Pride and Discipline. And I said, oh, the writing is, have you got all these Jack's writings? I've got all. So I had piles of writings that he would write.
Wow.
So I started that. So now I'm 99 and now I'm kicking myself all over.
Oh, but you're still exercising.
Oh, sure, because
So what
you
are
know,
you doing, weight training?
you know what you can work around your infirmities. I have a rollator, that I can hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
I could do all sorts of stuff with that.
So more your upper body, you don't need to worry about your knee.
Well, no, well, because I keep moving it and exercising it, and I can it's not, I would limp around a lot and move. I can't move like I used to. And of course, 99, I don't know, it's pretty hard. Anybody did 99. But I still move around and keep myself, busy, keep my mind busy and my body busy.
Oh, you really look so healthy and so vibrant. Are there any arm exercises that you do with little dumbbells, or is there a stretch
Yeah,
that you
I
really
do.
love?
Yeah, I do. I have dumbbells out there, and let's see. I don't have anything here that I can grab, but well, just pretend you know, a, this is a mouse,
Right.
and you can. So I have these dumbbells, and I go up and down and up and down, and then
Yeah.
the most important thing is doing something for the back of your arms, because a lot of women, when they get older, they get flabby arms in the back. So now if you see this,
Yeah, the arms on your desk chair.
this rolls back and forth, so I can't, but you can get up, because
Ah,
it's rolling, I can roll around on this thing.
okay. So, but just by
But if
pushing,
you lift yourself up,
yes.
yeah, can you lift, you have arms on
Yes, I do.
yeah, well, lift yourself up,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
on your arms.
yeah, it's beautiful.
See, you can feel it right here.
Absolutely. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, you're working your triceps, I guess, then, right?
Yeah, you're working your triceps, and that's what a lot of women complain about their flabby arms in the back here
You
because
know
they.
what? When my mom retired, she talked about how she just noticed her muscle tone in her arms went away
Yeah,
so fast. She was an operating room nurse and she was on her feet, and she just noticed that retirement really made her arms look
she
flabby.
gets some small weight, you know,
Yeah.
or cans,
Yeah.
get some cans, because Jack used to do this on his television show, and get some cans and that are heavy. Not, I think Campbell's soup. I think a little heavier than that, a little, and then you go up and down and then. But let me show you. Okay, put your arm straight out like this.
Yep.
Just okay, it's like now touch your shoulder.
So you're
Okay,
just bending
now
it
I
forward to
want you to
touch.
squeeze your fist
Yep.
really tight, 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 tight. Oh, bring it up slow, 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 slow. See,
Yeah. You really
that
feel it
is
in your
that's
bicep.
what that's resistance. And so when you think about that, when you do that, if everybody would think about, and that's what the cans do when you lift a can, pretend it's heavier than it is, and then bring it up, and
Yeah.
then you'll feel the muscle working.
Right. So it's kind of like a bicep curl with a can
Yeah,
that's not too big for your hand.
that's right.
Yeah, and I love the idea of anything when you can exercise in a chair. There's a lot more of that available
Yeah,
now on videos,
yeah.
yoga in your chair and things
Jack
like
was
that.
their first one that came out with the chair exercises on his show.
Really?
So I have a another story. So this lady writes this. this lady writes a postcard. I remember this so well. She says, "Dear Jack, I've been watching your show for 10 years, and that chair hasn't lost a pound." But he did a lot of chair exercises. And I have, on our website, jackelaine.com, we have the chair exercises. The vintage store, if you go in the vintage store, we have chair exercises, but they're on. I think they're pretty well. I don't know if anybody has any CDs anymore, but if you do, we still have those chair exercises.
Wow. So, another thing that comes up all the time, this second podcast I have is called The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the
Yeah.
reality of running a business after 50. So it's all the midlife stuff that gets in your way of running the business the way you want to. And one of the most common things that women in business talk about, the entrepreneurs, is energy. And then here I sit looking at you and looking at everything you've done since you were 70, 80, 90. And it just seems like you have boundless energy. So can you
I
talk to me?
do.
You have a ton of energy. So tell me a little bit about what that's like for you and what do you do to help yourself with energy?
Well, I've always had a lot of energy, and I think it's because you get tired if you overindulge and you don't eat the right foods. See, food gives you energy. Exercise gives you energy. So that's what I do. I think the exercise that I do gives me energy. And I think the food that I put in my body gives me energy. And I like the protein shakes too, in the morning. And so because protein, you need a lot of people don't eat breakfast, and they say, "Oh, I'm not a breakfast eater." Well, that's when you've slept all night long. And then you maybe have a cup of coffee, and that the coffee gives you energy for a little while, but then and sugar gives you a little energy, but then you go, you know. So what you want to do is you want to put good protein in your body, so that gives you energy, and you want to exercise. I'm not asking you to go. Jack used to work out 2 hours. I'm not asking you to do that. I've always worked maybe 20 minutes, maybe, but I think into my exercise. If I do, okay, if I do I'm doing this. If I think into it, and cross my arm, you can feel it here and you can feel it there. But if I just do like this, and I go like this, that's not helping.
No, I know what you're saying. So if you're not watching, Elaine's just showing that she's not being very intentional about the exercise. So when you're more present and you're really thinking into it and really focusing on what you want to be doing with intention and focus, it's a much better use of
Is
the
this
20
just
minutes.
radio? It's not video. Oh, I see.
This is I have the video, but I don't typically use the video. It's
Oh,
just
I see.
audio.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so being in the present moment, really being in the present moment while you're doing the exercises, while you're doing anything, just really being intentional about it is what you're saying.
Yes, right. You have to think into it. Everything has to do with the brain. The brain starts your body working everywhere if you think about it.
So good. So another thing,
I'm thinking about wiggling my toes right now, and my toes are wiggling. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. So the other thing I wanted to touch base with you about was that you're working at your age. So a lot of people in my community talk about retirement and when they want to retire and worried about retiring and how are they going to keep their mind engaged and how are they going to be socially once they retire. And one of the things that I coach on is that, it's not black and white. There are so many ways that you can reimagine your retirement experience, and it may include work. Maybe work on your terms might be something you want. And here you are at 99, continuing to love your work, continuing to serve, to share your knowledge, and to inspire. So could you talk a little bit about the importance of work for
Someone to
you?
love, something to do, and something to look forward to. So I believe that you have to. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't concentrating on a project. So my advice is to have a project. I don't care whether it's painting. I have a couple of friends that I used to play. I don't play golf anymore, but she's the same way age as I am. Only she's about 3 months older, and she's always calling. Oh, I'm the older one, but she's still the same. She's still alive, and she's always kidding me. But but she just took up painting. She didn't know that she was she could be is doing the most beautiful paintings. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And so that's one thing I've never tried, and I think I'm a klutz at it. But maybe one day before I die.
I think, Elaine, this is what I do for my clients. I'm giving you permission. I have a wand in my hand right now. And in the Zoom square, bing, you have permission to find some time in your busy day to experiment with painting. Please. I can't wait to see what you're going to do.
I love your wand. I just love it. What a great idea.
Well, you know what's so funny about this wand is I don't know how it just showed up in my house. I have no idea where it came from. I don't think it was part of anything that my sons had growing up. I don't remember seeing this. I have this wand and I just discovered it one day. I'm the only girl in my family and I saw it and I went, "Ooh, it's blue and fuzzy and silver and sparkly."
Yeah.
I said, "I want the wand." And then it's become such a fun part of coaching because a lot of midlife gals need permission.
Yes.
To dream.
Right. Yes. Give yourself permission. I love what you just said because a lot of people won't give themselves permission to do things. You have three ages, You have your chronological age, you have your physical age, and you have your mental age.
Yeah.
And your mental age is what you think you are. I think I'm very young.
Well, I did one episode on the reasons I think that we should all act our shoe size and not our age.
Oh, that's a good one.
How old would you be? I'm 6.5.
Oh, wow. No, I always think about myself and my mental age as in the 20s and 30s. I think the 30s, maybe even the 40s now. And I'm thinking 60 because that's when I wrote my first book, Fitness After 50. And that's when I toured the country and they called me up and they wanted me on the Today Show. And oh my gosh, all sorts of things happened for me. Wow. And a friend of mine, my gosh, she was all down on herself. And she said, "Oh my God, I'm 61 or whatever." I said, I told her life begins at 60. And then I started talking to her and my God, you know what she's doing? She's making a fortune right now.
Really? Good for her.
Yeah. She's speaking and she's talking and she's, doing all to crowds and she's doing a whole thing on TV. I mean, on Instagram and all this stuff.
Wow, on social. Wow.
Social media is what I was trying to say. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to just touch with you, and then I'll let you go because I could talk to you all day. I might have to visit you in California. But the other thing is you have so much passion for what you're doing. And you've had passion. It's been consistent for you. You talked about consistency. You've been consistently passionate about your work. And so many of my clients come to me and say, "I don't know what my passion is," because I think this idea that passion is some big, giant concept that's hard to figure out. And there's so much risk that you'll make a mistake or something. Tell me about passion.
A little simple answer to it. When I was in high school, I got one of my first jobs was going at Sears Roebuck, folding papers after school. You know, the flyers?
Yes.
Then you'd have to fold them like this. Well, that's a very, very boring job. So they were playing music in the background. And then I started folding to the music. And then I started counting. And my gosh, the time went by so fast. And I made myself like it. You know, I mean, there's anything that's boring, make yourself like it. I mean, anything that I do that I, normally wouldn't want to do, I just do it because I'm going to make lemonade out of the lemons.
It's
And
the
so
A in arch, like your attitude for creating the life that you
goes
want.
back to attitude. Yes,
Yeah.
you were right.
Like this is it. The attitude that you want in your life it's fun. It's energetic. It's positive. His glass is half full. And that kind of thing can be intentional. And that's what you're talking about. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
Well, is there anything you would like to share with women in the middle? Any of your best tips or insights about life? We would love to hear it.
Well, I think I've gone through a lot about being modernized and modern about everything. 'Tis the set of the soul that sees the goal and not the storms of life. And too many people see the storms of their life, and it's if you don't look at those storms, but it's just a little rain in the rain that came, rain on the plane. And anything is, you're a walking billboard. I want you to remember, everybody, that you're a walking billboard. What you eat today is you're wearing tomorrow, and you're walking and talking tomorrow with your walking billboard. So you want to keep that in the back of your mind. And I am a big believer, and Jack was a big believer in visualizing what you want out of life. So if you visualize positive things will happen to you. And so those are things to think about.
Now, I want to make sure that I add your contact information, like how people can get a hold of you and how people can find the website and the book, Pride and Discipline, The Legacy of Jack LaLanne. So to get that book, you can go to Amazon and easily find the book. And how you mentioned the website,
jacklalanne.com. jacklalanne.com. And we have a lot of vintage, there's a number of things. We have our podcasts on there.
Oh, good.
You can go to podcasts and you can see.
And what's the podcast called?
It's called people would say, Jack, how can I thank you for what you've given us? He says, just pass it on. So it's called Lalanne Pass It On. It's on YouTube. Lalanne Pass It On podcast. And you can go in there and you can see some of our latest podcasts.
That's great.
jacklalanne.com is our website. And if you want any vintage stuff, you go into the vintage store.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, you're anything but vintage. Just your physical age is vintage. There's nothing else about you that's vintage. I can't thank you enough for taking your time today and joining me here. I've had an absolute delightful hour talking to you about your life, your contribution, being an entrepreneur, your amazing marriage, working together with your husband, and your thoughts about aging. Thank you so much, Elaine. You're awesome.
Susie, it's been a pleasure working with you because you're prima classa.
Thank you so much. Okay, that is it for this episode. What did you think? Were you as inspired as I was? I mean, I think you could tell. The way I was talking to her, I couldn't get enough of Elaine Lalanne. She's so interesting and has so much energy, so much wisdom, and she's a lot of fun. So I have a question. Are you ready to be more intentional about what you want your personal walking billboard to look like? That was an analogy that's going to stick with me. So ask yourself, what is standing in the way of you exercising and eating the way you want to on purpose? So when I ask that question, please notice the very first thing that pops into your mind. Maybe it was a glimpse of something, maybe it was an epiphany, maybe it was an excuse. Whatever it is, remember this interview with Elaine. She changed her life to become more intentional with health. It's a different story than you might have heard before, but she did it. And at 99, she's still doing it. So inspirational. So what do you want for yourself as you age? You can totally become a woman who's taking exceptional care of her health now and in your next chapter. And I can help you. It starts with your thinking. And this is exactly what we're up to in the Women in the Middle Academy. So if you'd like to see if working together is a good fit for you, head over to www.talktosusie.com and book your free momentum call. This is the way to learn more about how the Academy can help you go from stuck to fulfilled using creative tools, mindset coaching, joyful planning, and accountability in an amazing community of like-minded women. So if you're ready to make changes that are important to you, the Academy might just be the place to go, the thing to do, and we're waiting for you. Now, as you know, my focus as your midlife coach is to help you waste less time spinning and feeling stuck. This is what regret-proofing your life is all about. And remember, being the queen of your brain domain is the best way to be, and midlife transformation coaching, it's probably the fastest way to rediscover joy and purpose after 50. So if you'd like to see what working together is like, if it's a good fit for you, either in the Academy or private coaching, head over to www.talktosusie.com and book your free momentum call and we will chat. For show notes and links, go to www.susierosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 408. You'll also see a link there for my new show, The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, which is all about the reality of running your business when you're a midlife gal. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, and all the places. Let's do this, ladies. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.